let's talk about the books that I finished during the month of August. I didn't finish a ton of books, but the ones that I did finish, I highly rated. They were all like 4 or 5 stars. So it kind of balanced itself out. I did start by doing my pile of shame reading challenge, which is what I call the books that I never finish while fully intending to. Because there's a difference. I'm learning to put down books when I'm not enjoying them, but sometimes you still want to put them on pause in case you're just not in the right mood for them. And sometimes I'll go back to them and give them 5-star. Sometimes you go back to them and you're like, ah, yeah, there was a reason I couldn't finish it the first time. There are a couple. I did film the vlog. It didn't go up. Life happened. Honestly, I'll talk about it in a future vlog. But I do have the clips. I might still post them if you want to, but you're getting the reviews quickly now. So the first one is The Eternal Return of Clara Hart. I picked this up because I love the trope of someone reliving their day or their lives over and over again. And this one is this teenage boy reliving that day over and over and seeing Clara Hart dying. And I didn't realize it was why. It's my fault. I just don't really read them anymore, and especially a teenage boy, his friends being misogynistic. It took 2 seconds for me to be done. Actually, this is the last one that I gave up on during that vlog. So I was already, you know, at my limit, and it was the last drop for me. So not really the book's fault that much. Personal pet peeve, whatever. So yeah, I understand why I put it down the first time around, because I gave up on it earlier. So, you know, another one that I gave up on, although this one, part of me is still second guessing myself. This is Tall Oaks. This is the same author that wrote one of my best books of last year, All the Colors Was Dark. Loved that book so much. I had read another book by him too. Small Town Secrets, family drama, like they're very slow-paced, character-driven, and he does it super well. Love these two, so I thought I want to read more by him. He has nothing more recent, so I'm going to go back and read his older stuff. And I read this one, and once again, I gave up on it faster the second time around, and I'm second guessing myself because I had enjoyed the other ones so much and I didn't have the same vibes. But really early on, like chapter 1 was good. Chapter 2, again, start having some characters that are really misogynistic, which again, teenage boy can be. Doesn't mean that I want to read it, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily, you know, accusing the author. And then there's a Netanyahu shout out for some reason, which that didn't sit really well with me at the moment. And then we got more misogyny. Like that was all part of like chapter 2, and I was like, I don't know about this. So I put it down. Again, kind of second guessing myself, but maybe I shouldn't. I feel like I'm missing one book. Turns out I forgot the most important book from that vlog, and it is The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Adult fantasy series, first book. I had the ARC, the advanced reader copy, and I had made it 11% into it before giving up beforehand, and I just found the humor juvenile, like poop jokes, but I wanted to give it a second shot since I've seen so many 5-stars, so I did. I made it much further this time, however, I still had to put it down. I figured out what it reminded me of, and it is Kings of the Wild. Same thing. You make it halfway through the book, nothing has started. The humor, again, juvenile, made me feel like I was not the target audience. I just did not care for it, so I put it down the same way I put down Kings of the Wild. There were a few books like that I went through and just gave up on, and I didn't want to finish my week like that because it was like back to back to back, and I wanted to read something good at least. So I finished a vlog picking up this book, which was not part of Pile of Shame. This is Cheng Gang Allstars, which is a very gruesome book at times, but it's like a dystopian future where the prison complex decides to be even more money driven, and they start these games where people, if they can survive for 3 years, these like gladiator fights, they can make it to freedom, which, you know, basically never happens. So chapter 1, you know, you're just thrown into the story, and eventually it becomes more character driven, and you're kind of seeing her journey through, you know, that time there. And there's definitely more social commentary, and there's a little bit of a romance, but like it's really not the point of the story there. I think the only negative thing that I have to say, which isn't really, again, anyone's fault, is, you know how sci-fi sometimes you'll read a page and there's a bunch of words. Those are words that make sense in the world, but it becomes a bit much. That's how I felt about a lot of the terms. Like they all had like nicknames through the games, and it's all like Hurricane Stacks, and again, like Cheng Gang All-Star. Like it's a mouthful every time in my brain. English is my second language. Maybe I'm extra sensitive to these things, but yeah, that's the only thing that was really a negative. It's, again, quite violent at times. Makes complete sense because social commentary on the prison complex. So, oh yeah, Charlie also ate the corner because clearly he has issues. I'm making sure to make it clear because it won't be for everyone because of that, but I think that within the context, it makes complete sense, and this is going to be a 4-star for me. I did finish a nonfiction book, which was absolutely enraging. This is Doing Harm: The Truth About How Bad Medicine, Lazy Science Leave Women Dismissed, Misdiagnosed, and Sick. This book it made me sick, literally. It's a mix of like history and also like current times medical stuff. The author makes sure to focus on anything but reproduction, because there are definitely other books on the topic, but she just wanted to show how medicine has been misogynistic since. But what was really interesting and enraging to me is the fact that until we would find an actual disease, women had hysteria. And it's still the case today. They call it anxiety, but it's still hysteria. But then they'll say, oh, these symptoms, yeah, hysteria. It's like, oh, that turns out that's MS. Oh, okay. MS is a thing, apparently. Okay, whatever. So it turns out anxiety, until again there's a diagnosis. And it's still even the case with some diseases, like she's mentioning like vulvodynia, for example, is still kind of like, doctors basically, it takes them like 20 years before they catch up with the newest research. Cool. And one thing, again, I put a post-it there because the rage. The medical literature frequently described women with vulvodynia as non-compliant, aggressive, and difficult to deal with, which, like, no shit. Like, if you're in pain, and like, it's not just that, but it's just one example, but like chronic pain in general, any diseases that affect women more, it's in your head. Of course I'm going to be freaking enraged. Non-compliant, aggressive, and difficult to deal with. Yeah, if I'm showing up and you're telling me it's all in my head. I've had 2 doctors tell me that sometimes you just don't know the answer, which like pissed me off. And I was reading this when I was doing a vlog and I was talking about what was going on, and then I got really sick, which again, I'll talk about that later. But it was just the perfect timing to really piss me off, because of course I'm going to be aggressive and non-compliant when you're telling me it's all in my head when it's not. Like, at least admit you have no idea what's going on. And like, send me to see someone else that might actually know, because you're just not helping me. And like, what pisses me off is that if that person was in my shoes, okay, because my last doctor was a woman, if you were in my shoes, you would never accept that answer, which like extra annoying. Anyway, that was me the whole time I was reading this book, just getting increasingly angry. But at the same time, it's fascinating because again, like some diseases like MS, oh yeah, you're crazy. It's your uterus going everywhere, hysteria, whatever. Until they find the answer. Yet, doctors will not admit that they just don't know. I would have a lot more, not empathy for them, but like I would understand if you told me, you know what, I have no idea, but let me send you to... How hard is that? Like, it's not that complicated. Anyway, the author's a journalist, so I feel like she is really easy to read. Like, it's obviously a complex topic, but she makes it very easy and accessible. And she does talk about actual things, not just like stories like I'm just mentioning, but there's like the knowledge gap, and there's also the trust gap, I think that she called it. Yes, because again, you're not believed. Like, unless they can visibly see it, like my arm is chopped off, they're not going to believe you. And even then, like, just admit you don't freaking know. But yeah, instead it's just easier. They just want you out of their office, which is... Anyway, I read a few books on the topic because it's clearly close to art, and I would say this is probably top 2 or 3. I would also recommend this one, the red one, that one, and this one. They're definitely the best ones I have read and would highly recommend them. But yeah, be prepared to be slightly enraged, but it's justified anger, so like, it's fine. And then I had the best reading vlog of my life, which again, I kind of vlogged it. Things did not go as planned, so I don't know what's going to happen with that footage, but listen, okay. The Strength of the Few, I received the ARC. It's coming out in November, the 11th of November. And I never read books, pretty much. Like, I can count on one hand how many times I have reread a book because I just don't feel the need to. But I read page 1 because I was really excited. And I realized you are, like, straight back where it ended. And I couldn't do it. So I reread book 1 and I do not regret it. I don't necessarily feel like it's a waste of time. Like, I don't want to make it sound like that. But I'm so glad that I made an exception for this one because it was even better the second time around. It just was. I knew I was coming and like I could just focus. And I had mentioned when I first finished book 1 that there were like a few things that I was like, it's a little, you know, the character doesn't need much sleep. Or there's one thing that I found a bit convenient. And the second time around, didn't care whatsoever. So happily read this. And again, and I'm giving it 5-star again. Because yes, story-wise, if you don't know, I feel like it's so popular. The main character was a prince, and he's now in hiding from the hierarchy that conquered the kingdom, his father, and is plucked from where he was by this man who wants to send him to this magical school where he will have to survive because, yeah, and also try and solve the murder of his brother who disappeared years ago. So people said it was a suicide. He doesn't believe it, so he wants to find more answers, and obviously he has to be at the school for that to happen. So he sends him as a spy, and yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And that ending. So yes, I absolutely adore this book. And then I read book 2, The Strength of Few, and I will say book 1 is very like one point of view, which some people prefer. I have read his other series, by the way. This is book 2. And actually, is it a series? They have a summary in the beginning, which I think is amazing. It's not the case in the arc. I don't know what's going to happen with the actual book, but I'm just throwing it out there. I thought this was really practical when I was reading it. Even though I read book 2 and 3 like back to back, it was still a nice refresher. But yes, this series, it was 3 main point of view, 4. So that's what I was expecting when I read book 1, but like it's very, very one point of view. And in this one, you do have 3 point of views. I'm not going to say more because that would be a huge spoiler, but I enjoy them equally, which is important. And I had no idea where the story was going. Could not wait to find out though. And once again, the ending, I swear to, you can just, I have a clip of me just coming out of bed being like, what the fuck? If I were to read you the last sentence, I'm not going to, because again, spoilers. But if I were to, you would have no idea what I'm talking about. But like, when you actually read it, so yes, if you were worried book 2, is it going to be as good as book 1? Yes. 5 star. Love it. I feel like I love book 1 even more because magical school. But rereading it, am I becoming someone that rereads? I don't know, but 5 star. So these are like the 2 best books I've read this year. Does it count when you reread? Do you put it still in your best book of the year? I will. So yes, if you were looking at it, hesitating, pick it up, read it. So after all this trauma, because this author, I wanted something that would, help me with all that rage. And I read the R. I googled how do you pronounce it and I forgot already. That is not good.
Haar.
You're following this 80-something-year-old woman who lives in this Scottish village where this billionaire promoter wants to everything and just have a golf course. When I got it, I was joking that he was going to have like luxury condos because I feel like that's all they're doing nowadays, but no, it's a golf course, which like almost worse. Let me start by reading the first sentence. Muriel Margaret Macaulay was 84-year-old the first time she saw a man turned inside out by a sea monster. So this is, right away, a horror book. I do want to put a disclaimer, obviously it's a horror book, but I found some of the scenes very difficult to read because obviously they're gonna, bully the elderly because she's 84. I think there's another one that is like 88. I'm sorry, like just reading someone pushing an old person makes me want to cry. So what happens in here? Way worse. I was not prepared for it whatsoever. And that made it very, very painful. I also want to mention the dedication because it made me laugh. For my gran, you would have not liked this book at all. Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. I think I'm going to still round it up to a 4 because it was a really good book, but I found it hard to read. I feel like I've been reading more and more horror and I have enjoyed them, but this was a lot at times. But, female rage, there's this sea creature that might help the main female character. They're saying that that was the part that confused me when I first read the back. It says romantic and deranged. And I was like, how is this going to be romantic? And I would like to emphasize the deranged now because... So if you like horror, you want something unique, you like a good revenge story, you want, horror vibes. Again, some scenes were hard, but I'm glad I read it. I'm not sure I'm going to read more by the author. I'm going to be honest. If you've read more and you enjoy them, please let me know. But it was hard to read. So I don't know. Not right now, but I'm going to keep it in mind. So yeah, 4, but like, that was rough. And I am currently reading Medical Bondage, Race, Gender, and the Origin of American Gynecology. This is also a horror book, but it's nonfiction. I think it might be. The author's doing a postdoctoral fellowship, so I don't know if it's related to that, but you definitely can tell that she has done a lot of research. Basically, she wanted to discuss, yes, the beginning of gynecology and how like Dr. Sims, for example, is known as the father of gynecology. And she wanted to focus her research on the women, the one that we should be calling, you know, the mothers of gynecology. And she wanted to flesh them out as complex people. Because often they're seen as just the victims, which, I mean, they are, but there's this dichotomy between the fact that, yes, there are victims and, you know, they were perceived as, they were mostly enslaved Black women, but also Irish immigrants. And they were seen as being inferior, yet they were trained as nurses to help him. Like, that is like specialized research, like, or they're seen as, again, inferior, but yet they're considered stronger and they're better at enduring pain, which is not true, and having children. Or they would be considered also different from white women, yet the research would be done on Black women in order to help white women. Like, she's really balancing these ideas, and it's so far very interesting. I'm almost done. I have like 20 pages left, but I gave myself the goal of like reading, you know, 5-10 pages a day, and it's one of my biggest tips for harder to read nonfiction, whether they're really dense or just difficult topics. And yeah, you'll go through them eventually. So yes, this is good. It's not super thick because, once again, we don't know much about these women. She's doing a really good job at extracting whatever she can to actually write this book. But yeah, it's good, but it's rough. I almost forgot to talk about this one. I also read a really short ebook, The 6 Deaths of the Sane. I'm a big fan of the trope of someone reliving their day or their lives over and over again, and obviously the title kind of implied, okay, someone is going to be, you know, coming back multiple times. And I don't want to say anything else because it is really short. I don't remember how many pages because, again, ebook, but I enjoyed it. The main character has no idea what's going on, and at first you don't either, but I just couldn't put it down, and I needed to know how it was going to end, and it was good. So I'm gonna give it 4-star also. So August went well, but like, it was just so weird because like, we started so rough by just having to go through my pile of shame and realizing that all of these books should not have been put on there. I should have just gotten rid of them right away. But I'm still second guessing myself with some of them. Like, it's not a good feeling. And then eventually I moved on and found a bunch of books that I actually really enjoyed. So I'm going to keep riding that high though, and I can't wait to continue reading really good books in September because, like I said, my first vlog is going to be Catabasis. This is like the book I'm reading today. I have a lot of videos coming up. I have to catch up with my uploads, and like I said, I'll talk about it more in that reading vlog. I'll put more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, including my TBR for fall, because you're going to see what I'm planning for the next couple of weeks. I feel like fall is going to be, I feel like my reading year has been a little hit and miss so far, but like I said, we're riding that high and we're going to keep finding new favorites, and I'll see you then. Bye.